Hey everyone, welcome to today's episode of the L Spot Show.
We are your hosts. I'm Michael Mills.
And I'm Angela Yvonne. You're in for a great episode today. We'll be joined by artist and designer Panama Da Prince, who will be sharing his latest project, Alpha, with us. And I heard IndieNYC is taking us behind the scenes of an exclusive event.
But first, I wanted to talk about today's political climate because after this whole wall business and everything with the Mueller report, I'm torn between giving all the way up or digging deeper and getting more involved so that we can have some change.
I think I have the perfect person to join us for that conversation too. Maura Caroll is here to help us out, so don't you move.
This is the L Spot Show.
Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action.
The political climate today is a hot button topic for so many people in our audience. There's so many different perspectives, different facts and fiction, and varied personalities in American politics. It can all be very difficult to navigate.
Today we have a special guest panelist who is going to help us get to the bottom of just what the hell has been going on. University of Connecticut political science graduate, political trend forecaster, and American politics guru, Maura Caroll is here to sort this all out. Let's welcome her to the show. Yes. Thank you. So let's get into politics, Maura. What are your thoughts about the 2020 election?
It's a whole mess. Mm-hmm. I started studying politics when things were really like fun and light during the Obama era, where like there was some stuff going on, but who cared? He was fun, and like it wasn't absolute turmoil. And now I've just fallen into like it's an everyday nightmare, and I'm so far in it now that like I just can't escape.
We've got Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris.
Bernie needs to take several seats.
You think so?
Cory Booker. Bernie, well, he raised $6 million in 24 hours.
Yeah, because Democrats cannot learn their lesson. Well, he actually also, yesterday, his campaign announced that they had 1 million sign-ons, like people, signing up in support of him, and over 300,000 of those people were not supporters in the 2016 election. So he gained, that's according to his campaign, but that's a lot of people.
Right.
What is the momentum behind Bernie Sanders? Is it Bernie, or is it Bernie can beat Trump, or is it the first person that we really know and recognize that is stepping into the arena?
So Bernie, in 2016, let's go way back to 2008. In the Democratic primary in 2008, it was Obama and Hillary Clinton, and they were basically the same policy-wise. It was more of a popularity contest in that sense. They differed, of course, a little bit, but in 2016, there were really like fundamental policy differences between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders, and he was this candidate who was running this nationwide campaign of, Medicare for all, debt-free college, free, public university, really a democratic socialist campaign, and we hadn't seen that momentum in such a long time, and young people really got behind Bernie.
Right.
And, but Bernie is 77.
Yeah.
And but we do have to give him credit that his ideas from 2016, where people were kind of shaking their head out, every single Democratic candidate is running on a Medicare for All platform, on a, free 4-year university, improving education, a Green New Deal, so they're all, it's Bernie's platform basically, and they all just took like a different variation of it.
Oh, that's cool.
As someone who's really petty, I would love to see Bernie and Trump go up against each other in a general election, because I could stop watching Bravo at that point. It would be like a Housewives reunion times 1,000. But as someone who enjoys a functioning government and a country not in complete turmoil, I would not like to see that.
So who do you think that so far has put their hat in the ring? What do you think about Kamala?
Kamala Harris, she's a little bit, she's in between, she's in between Bernie and the center. You know what I mean? She's kind of right in the middle of Democrats. She endorses big liberal ideas again, like really boosting education, climate change reform, sensible gun laws, gun reform. But she backtracked a little bit in the beginning. She came out and she unequivocally said that she really stands for Medicare for all. It's something that is really important to her. And then, a couple days later, she kind of was like, well, I mean, I would look at other ideas, and I'm not going to completely get rid of private health care. So she has that.
What about Cory Booker?
Cory Booker, Kirsten Gillibrand, and Amy Klobuchar are essentially the same candidate, right. As well as Kamala Harris. You can kind of throw her in there. Maybe not Amy Klobuchar. Maybe she's a little bit more to the center. But everything is very nice right now. Right. We're a year out from the Iowa caucus.
Right.
I'm still recovering from 2016, so I don't know how I'm going to do this again. But
I hate to cut you off. What does it take to really, if you were, I don't want to get like DMs of like death threats, but right. What does it take to mount a successful front against President Donald Trump? What is it going to take? I don't think anyone really knows. No one knows.
That is so far above my pay grade. I have no. The problem is that he's not a normal Republican candidate, right. Who, first of all, there are things now that SNL isn't even funny anymore because they're just going on there and just saying exactly what he said verbatim. You could match the transcripts. And so he's not, a normal Republican candidate who has, conservative fiscal policies, but still is able to, talk about economic inequality and maybe, consider climate change. And he's just he's an insane person. He's crazy. And so I don't know.
So politics is a whole power game. It's a whole power game. So what kind of candidate would be the perfect candidate? Because I know a lot of the times from, I'm not as smart as you are, but I know that with politics and in order to run, you have to get different favors from different people to get certain things started. So would you say a candidate that would be more powerful and for the people would be someone who is not getting all these different favors and they're just running on just pure, just wanting
that's
people
not even possible, maybe. I don't know.
Why isn't it possible?
Well, so to go back to the candidates now that have already announced, kind of running on Bernie's whole notion of taking down special interest groups, not accepting money from big corporations, kind of taking down the big banks, and so the Democratic field right now is interesting because they're not taking that big money, and the Republicans have a lot of big money donors and kind of almost like an endless supply.
Right.
And they really bought their way into politics.
Right.
And so, take Elizabeth Warren, for example. She's really focusing on running a populist campaign, which is, the power from the people, really just focusing on grassroots and, bringing democracy back to, America as a whole and not taking on any kind of special interest money, any super PAC money, any, corporate donations. And Elizabeth Warren has a history of taking down big banks and taking down big corporations and just really knocking it to Wall Street. And so it's going to be interesting to see because they're not being bought in by anybody. They're being bought in by the American people, so Bernie raised $6 million in under 24 hours, just about 24 hours, and the average donation was $27, Average donation was $27, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. So, that's a lot of people donating to Bernie Sanders, and that's a lot of average day Americans,
Wow.
But he could make it through 4 years, I think.
I think so as well, but I don't think that
82.
But I mean, since we're leaving to be 100,
sorry, not ages, but I know I'm gonna be 100 myself. But anyways, yes, 105.
I just worry that people just can't get behind him. And we are so polarized now that we live in a world of identity politics. Mm-hmm. And so people are so stuck in their ways of their political identity is something that is part of their identity. And they, it's ingrained in who they are. And so to ask someone to switch that, especially Republicans are amazing at messaging.
Right.
They can really message their way, and Democrats aren't always the best at that.
Right.
But they can govern very well. But Republicans can just message their way out of anything, really, and the language that they use, because they feel like there's no consequences to it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that just watching, it would just be a messy, messy campaign, just watching that. Bernie go up against Trump. Anyone going up against Trump is going to be a messy, messy campaign.
I really hope that we can. I know. I want us to rise above that. Like I
cannot
think
wait,
that we should
'cause
hold
I think-
ourselves to a much
Yeah.
a higher standard of just interacting professionally,
Right.
politically. Like I think it's really, for lack of a better term, deplorable to see
that-
like our elected leaders governing them or conducting themselves in that manner.
I will say that politics has always been a petty mess.
Yes.
More people are paying attention now, and it is a lot like heightened, and it's a lot pettier. But it's not like things were regular order all the time. Like,
Right.
It has
it.
always been petty,
Got it.
like from day one. And so, more people are paying attention now, which is the only way to, change and move and
I
evolve.
think everyone is just ready for Trump to be done. So the first person who seems like they are just like, if you offer me Jolly Ranchers, I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I'm gonna vote.
There's-
I think Jolly Ranchers.
What do you think about? I think I mean either way, even if he's elected another 4 years or if he only serves one term, he is the president now, and he will always have been the president of the United States.
Right.
That doesn't
Absolutely.
go away. Where do you think we are in like the forecasted future? Like, let's talk about politics in the next 10 years. Like, what are some things that you definitely see changing? Things you see coming on the horizon? There's a lot of, as I assume there would be in any time in history, there's always like a bunch of things coming forth.
Right.
If we were to look at politics at the 90s, it's like, okay, post-AIDS crisis, there's gay rights, and post, Desert Storm and all that sort of stuff, there's all these other things that are happening. What do you see happening in the next coming little bit of time?
Well, first of all, if we don't tackle climate change now, there's not going to be another 10 years. So, I mean, there will be 10 years, but, it will just be absolute turmoil. One thing that I do see is, good point that you made, the 90s coming out of the AIDS crisis and, really seeing the evolving of gay rights. We're the generation, millennials are the generation of school shootings.
Yeah.
Pete Buttigieg, he's actually the mayor of South Bend, Indiana. He's running for president. He's an, kind of unknown candidate, but he has a really cool grassroots campaign running. And, that's kind of a line taken from him, is that we're the generation of, students who lived through mass shootings and lived through school shootings to a point where it's something normal to our lives. And that when you see every other day in America that there's, a shooting, you're like, I'm not surprised. You kind of
not surprised. Yeah.
you just really lose that that shock factor, and I think that will really play a part as more young people start to come of age into politics, and you see what the teenagers in Parkland, Florida, were able to with the March for Our Lives, what they were able to organize and what they're still able to do. A year later, after suffering a horrific tragedy, really just pushing for it and holding legislators accountable is a really, really important thing.
So you think coming up, we've got some gun control change that's going to be
Yeah, absolutely. And also we're a generation where we're in trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars of college debt. People, we're going to make less than our parents. We're the first generation that's going to make less than our parents would. And, tens of thousands of dollars in debt for a public university. It's...
So you think there'll be some change as well as far as student loans? and-
holding people accountable,
Well, this conversation was powerful. I learned a lot. Where can we follow you on your social medias?
I'm not really online a lot, but something that I can say is that you have to vote. You have to get involved. Change happens by those who show up. And I see a lot of people, angry online about what's happening. But if you are angry and you don't vote, you're silent. And being silent is being complicit. And so vote, get informed, listen to a podcast, really get out there and let your voice be heard. Because if not, then you don't really have a right to complain about, the situation that we're in. You really have to vote your way out of it.
Facts. Well, thank you, Maura, for joining us. This was
course.
a much-needed conversation, and hopefully we have inspired millennials to get informed and get involved.
All right, Angela, I know each week you've been showing us some healthy ways to pig out on good food. I can't wait to check that out. But first, let's see what our adventures of our correspondents at IndieNYC have been getting into.
The IndieNYC show is a platform passionate about creating more exposure for independent artists in film and digital media. One way you can support an indie content creator right now is by heading over to Vimeo and typing in Armbar. It's a short film by Congested Cat Productions. Next, head on over to YouTube and type in Bubbly Brown Sugar. I hope you enjoy.
I don't get why we gotta do this now.
Because I'm ready.
Fight!
Sorry. Girls talk.
Y'all know what time it is. The sun is shining. We are alive, and that means it is time for some morning good. Last night, I dreamed of my soulmate, and it felt so real. You should have seen the things that we did.
In your head?
Y'all, our rendezvous was so intense. I'm over here tripping over a man that I haven't even met yet.
Girl, the man doesn't even exist.
I can still feel him all over me. I can't help but wonder what he's doing right now.
That nigga ain't tired. His back hurt because it's been a minute.
Your back hurt?
You supposed to pop her back out, not throw yours out, man.
Who ends a perfect relationship for a man in their dreams?
Someone short of crazy.
Tell me again slowly. I left the perfect man because God told me to. No. Oh my God.
I know it's time to go. We gotta go.
I haven't been sleeping well.
What you having, like nightmares or something?
No, not at all.
I used to have these crazy ass night terrors, right? Man, I pissed the bed till I was like 13, 14 years old.
Hey, ain't nobody trying to hear all that.
Gabe, what are you doing here?
I wanted to be here for you.
I invite you to speak what you want until you see what you have said.
Jewel and her homies from Bubbly Brown Sugar.
I just wish my baby sister was putting her talents to better use rather than making a fool of herself on the internet.
You know so much more than that. Yes! OMG! Okay, wait!
Woman, what in the world are you wearing?
Surprise! Until next time, over and out. Bye!
Want more independent artists to support? We know plenty. Give us a follow on Instagram at the IndieNYC Show. We'll see you next time.
I'm Angela Yvonne, and welcome to Vegan Pop. Now, the first thing people think about when they're becoming vegan is, I'm gonna have to give up my cheese. But I am here at Riverdale on Washington Avenue in Brooklyn, New York, where they specialize in house-made vegan cheeses that are sure to change your mind. the owner of Riverdale, this exquisite cafe where you can get cheeses, you can get vegan products. Tell us why you wanted to have this cafe here in Brooklyn.
Well, I'm vegan. I like food, and I live in the area. And I thought there was really an opportunity to actually showcase what's available. I think a lot of people don't even know the options that are out there, the great vegan cheese that's available. So I kind of wanted to bring it all under one roof and show people what's available and show them how great vegan cheese is.
Yes, because from my experience, speaking to other people who are wanting to cross over to vegan, cheese is the hardest thing that people want to get.
Yeah.
They cannot even fathom that I would have to give up cheese.
Yeah.
But being here at Riverdale, we've learned so much about your different cheeses here. Go ahead and explain what we have in front of us. We have this beautiful cheese plate.
So this is a selection of our house-made cheese. We do make our own cashew cheese. We do also source a lot of other brands. But what we have here are a selection of our Billy cheeses, which is kind of a shepherd style. And then we have here, our Standard, that's our Heinrich, which is actually an aged beer cheese that we season with caraway. So think of like Oktoberfest, very hearty, very strong in the flavor. This is our Pepper Billy, that's the one you helped making.
Yes.
One of our most popular one. We use smoked bourbon pepper that we source from Kentucky for this one. This is our Drunken Billy. This is infused with port. And then this is our Truffle Billy, which we use minced truffles for, so not just the truffle oil, but actual minced truffles. And that's the spicier one. It's our Picante. We use a little bit spicy peppers that we mix in, but then also use for the crust on the outside.
Oh my gosh.
Most of them are, so all of them are cashew based. All of them are fermented, depending on which type you're making, 2 to 3 days. And then some of them are aged. This one's aged at least 2 weeks. Generally, the longer they are aged, the better the flavors marinate. But we use fermentation and aging techniques just like with any other cheese.
So what are the types of nuts that you use in order to make cheeses other than the cashew? Because I know that that's like one of the most popular ones, but what other nuts?
So the ones we make in-house, we use cashews, but we do carry other cheeses that are made with other nuts such as macadamia. Macadamia makes a really nice cheese. Almonds are also becoming more popular. We see a lot more cheeses made with sunflower seeds for people that want to avoid nuts. And then there's, of course, there's soy. There are also soy-based cheeses that are really nice, especially some that are a little bit more melty and stretchy. They're often soy-based ones.
Okay. So can you get cheese without the soy? Because I know some people are...
Most of the cheeses we carry don't have soy. Like there's no soy in these. Soy doesn't need to be in it, actually. Most of the nut-based cheeses probably don't even use soy. So majority of the cheeses we have don't have soy in it.
Okay. What would be, since everyone is, the big question is, I want pizza, which cheese would I use to melt it and give me the most?
Well, so I think depends what you kind of want to create.
Right.
We like the truffle on it. It makes kind of a, you could use it as like, you'd use a ricotta or something like that. Nice truffle flavor, maybe add a little truffle oil, mushrooms and so on. So that one would be very, very, very nice. The picante, if you want to make something a little bit more spicy, that is with a spicy sausage, vegan sausage or something like that. Okay. That would be very nice. And of course we have shreds as well that are really made for being put on pizza, so you get that like melty stretchiness and so on. So there's a variety of options actually.
So did you have to go to a cheese school in order to do this, or was this more like trial and error?
I wish there would be. So two things definitely helped me along the way. My first inspiration came from years ago. So when I became vegan, I always liked cheese. So I set out to look for cheese. Came across a book by Miyoko, who's the creator behind Miyoko's cheeses. She actually years ago wrote a book about vegan cheese making. So that was my first inspiration. So I started pretty much working my way through her book. So she was, I guess, laid the foundation. And then a lot trial and error. You experiment, some worked out, some worked not so much, and so it's a lot of experimentation. And then shortly before I started my business here, I wanted to get a little bit more hands-on culinary training, so I went to a cooking class by Matthew Kenny. Part of it focused on raw vegan cheese making, so that was also, I particularly looked for something to just kind of help me a little bit more with my culinary training. But I'm not a trained chef. It was really, I guess most of it is trial and error.
Well, these are beautiful cheeses.
Thank you.
People, with the culinary advancement of veganism, what do you think that people should know when they're crossing over? Because what do you think is the important key to, making your cheeses, just cooking in general?
Yeah. So the way I explain it to people that are just crossing over or that are starting to dabble in vegan cheese is the way you want to look at it is like you wouldn't compare a cow cheese to a sheep cheese, right? Two different things. You don't say a brie is the same as a Gouda. It's not. And that's how you should look at this as well. There's cow cheese, there's sheep cheese, there's nut cheese. Offers more opportunity, it just extends, I think, the cheese world, so to speak. And that's how you should look at it. Just don't compare it to a cow cheese because it's its own type of cheese. You can get anything from a shredded mozzarella to a aged Gouda to a buffalo mozzarella style, but they're all nut-based. It won't be the same as, a sheep cheese or anything.
Right.
It's still really good. It has similar techniques and so on. So I always tell people, just don't look for imitation. Look for something more original. Okay. So we may say like, hey, this is a Gouda style, but it is really its own. Just as you would say, a cow milk Gouda and a goat milk Gouda are not the same, so you would also not expect the same from a nut-based Gouda style. Okay. So that's what I always explain to people. And for a lot of the cheeses we hear, we really focus on something like this. You want to create a cheese platter, especially something that you want to give your non-vegan friends.
Very visually stimulating.
Yeah, so that's kind of what we focus on. We do have also some cheeses that are more for cooking, or shreds, or sauces, and so on. So it's all out there. I think try to think of what you want to create, and don't look for the exact imitation, because these products are not imitations. They're just its own world, so to speak.
Well, I had the opportunity to make one of the cheeses. I made one just like this. How long does it take for you to do the whole process?
About 2 weeks.
Oh, for just one cheese?
Until it gets shaped and packaged. Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can we get this online, or do you have to come down to Riverdale?
Right. So we are primarily a brick and mortar store.
Okay.
We are in the process of opening a second location in Manhattan, so that's coming soon. Our house-made cheese is available on Vegan Essentials.
Okay.
They do ship all over the U.S. And like 2 or 3 other stores that we sell our house-made cheese to are this one in Inwood,
okay.
And one actually in Westchester. But we are very small space. Our production space is very small, so we kind of have to keep it small.
How many do you make per batch? Like, I know that you're closed on Mondays, but when you are putting the cheese, how many do you make?
So per production, so we can make roughly about 150
per order
per productions. So on a Monday, when we fill up all the space we have, we'll probably get out about 150 to 200 pieces. per week. So but you know what we made last Monday is only going to be ready by the end of next week.
Okay.
So every week it's kind of a rolling process.
Well, tell everyone where we can find you, your location,
yes,
social
so
media.
we are in Prospect Heights. We are located on 820 Washington Avenue. Our new location will be in the brand new Essex Market, which is going to open at the end of April, hopefully. We're on social media. If you want to reach out to us or come and visit, we are. Our hashtag is Riverdale Cheese, and yeah, we are open. We're closed on Mondays here, but we open every day, and on Essex Market we'll be open every day as well.
Yes, and I cannot wait to taste this cheese. Panama Da Prince busted onto the scene in 2011 with the mixtape The Conquest, and soon followed up with the lifestyle brand Alpha. Wearing many hats, welcome Panama Da Prince.
Thank you for having me, Angela.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
So, how are you doing?
I can't complain. I'm good. You know, I'm just happy to be here with you guys.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, no, absolutely. You know, I'm a big fan of the show, so, you know, had to come, you know, show face a little bit.
Yes, and you're looking very fashionable.
Thank you.
Are
I
you wearing-
appreciate that.
I see you have your Alpha chain. So
Oh,
tell
of
us.
course.
So that's a segue to tell us
Alpha,
about
yes.
Alpha.
Okay, so the whole thing behind Alpha is about self-empowerment, being the leader of your own destiny and transcending every obstacle. So obviously, everybody knows the term alpha male.
Absolutely.
I want everybody to feel like an alpha, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, gay, straight, like no matter. I want everybody to feel like they're in control of their own destiny. So what I decided to do is make a lifestyle brand out of it. So I curate different events, and aside from that, I have my own clothing brand behind it. So, you know, that's what Alpha is really all about.
Nice. What are some of the inspirations that you draw, I guess, visually from your clothing brand? Where do you get your inspiration from?
Oh, like literally like everything. You know, I like nothing that's really too clean cut. I like everything that's to be a little rugged and distressed. And I'm really big on like 80s and 90s fashion. So I took like a lot of inspiration from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was telling you earlier you had a back in the day hip hop voice. So now that see how that see?
It makes sense.
I
It
know
makes
all.
sense.
I know all. So you came onto the scene in 2011.
Yeah.
So from that time to now, you know that hip hop has changed in different facets. What do you see is the biggest change in hip hop today?
Honestly, see, it's funny that you even asked me that question, because if you think about hip hop in the 80s and the 90s, it had a message, it has substance. Music nowadays, it really has no substance, you know. Like me, I'm extremely passionate about making music. I'm in love with the creative process. And no matter if I'm like need to have a hit song or whatever, I make sure I always make something that kind of stands for something. People look at music now overall as just a hustle. You know, it's even to the point now whereas it's okay to not even write your own music as a lyricist.
Yeah.
But are they really even lyricists? You get somebody with an image, you get somebody with a gimmick, you got songwriters, and then boom. And I'm not knocking it, but you know, I'd rather those people be called pop stars opposed to actual rappers, you know? And another big change is that like a lot of these new age rappers, they promote, you know, drug use. And don't get me wrong, if you think about rap in the 90s, of course you had rappers who spoke about drugs, but they spoke about selling it. Not saying that that's any better, but not everybody can sell drugs. But it's so easy to get addicted to these over-the-counter prescriptions and these cough syrups and these pills and everything, you know, so I'm not really for that personally.
Wow, that's interesting. That definitely is a different message to hear from someone that does hip-hop with the current sort of narrative, I guess, as far as drug use. Is that something that you have like personal experience with, or?
Nah, I have no personal experience with that, but I've witnessed, you know, people get hooked on drugs. I've witnessed good friends of mine become junkies. And I'm not blaming, you know, hip hop for that or anything like that, but I've seen the other side of it. So it's nothing that really should be glorified at all.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's very powerful.
So with hip hop today, you know, with the mumble raps and things like that, do you think
is mumble rap real? I don't.
It's real.
It's real, man.
But when people say mumble rap, I don't hear the mumble. I just hear rap.
If I cannot decipher what you're saying in your song, it's mumble
what
rap.
about artists like Twista or like that's like really you can't hear what Twista's saying.
But what
when he
they're
raps.
saying about mumble rap is more so, I think that it's like it's no message behind it. It's just I'm just spewing out whatever like.
Is that what mumble rap means?
Yeah.
I thought mumble rap was literally the phonetic sound of you. So like it sounds like the person just.
Because remember Kanye put out that song. What was that?
That wasn't a real song. I thought.
That's like mumble rap because it's no real meaning. You're putting it out there, and we're still like.
This. Are you sure? This whole time I thought mumble rap was just the way
Wait,
that
no,
it sounded.
so what Angela's
He's
saying?
the rapper. You tell us.
So what Angela's saying, she is half correct, and you're correct as well. Yeah. It is music with no substance, but it also has, you know, the sound of them mumbling. Like a Young Thug, he would be like a mumble rapper. Future would be Future would definitely be a mumble rapper.
Right.
But it's just popular right now. I mean, like, is it that bad?
It's horrible,
yes,
man.
It's horrible.
Okay.
Comparing, like, if you're like really a connoisseur of hip hop, and you go back to like, you know, back in the '80s, like he was saying, the songs that they were putting out like in the early '80s were like spirituals.
They were, but that was a different time in hip hop. But that was a different time in hip hop. Right. We grew up, or at least I did, and I think you did, and you probably did as well, in the '90s, and like '90s hip hop was Tupac and Biggie and Diddy and all of those guys. But there was also Master P, and there was like
Master P wasn't his songs talked about his life in like New Orleans.
Exactly. So the Southern perspective is always different. It's always different, bro. Honestly, I remember Andre 3000 making a big thing out of it, man. He's like, yo, the South got something to say, because people always put musicians and rappers from the South in this one box because they are known for making BS music and just party music. But one of the first albums I ever heard was the Outkast album, bro. And they were honestly the first Southern rappers that I had genuine respect for. Me being a New Yorker, me being a fan of Wu-Tang, me being a fan of Biggie, me being a fan, you know, of Slick Rick, Jay-Z. Like when Outkast came, I'm like, yo, these dudes are different.
Yeah, and they ushered in everyone from there.
Exactly. But okay, so if they were different and you could appreciate their craft, and so that speaks, I guess, as sort of like a counterpoint to other rappers. But what is the sort of like defining bulb of what is hip hop? Not where did it come from? We all know where it came from. We all know when it came about. But what is it that makes something hip hop?
You see, nowadays that line is so blurred that nobody can even call it. Because think about it, like her and I, we're speaking from the perspective of being like old heads, so to speak, as people will call us.
I am not. So yeah.
You feel me? But then you have hip hop is not even controlled by us anymore.
And it was controlled by us in the beginning.
It was controlled by us. It's no longer controlled by us, bro. And we have the perception that, okay, it's controlled by the kids who are on social media. It's not even that, bro. It's these people that's in a corporate office, and then they see something that they can run with, that they can have influence with, and then they shove it down our throats.
But I mean, we are not responsible for that per se, but some of the artists that we look up to are definitely responsible for that. So how can we have that sort of feeling about hip hop when the artists that we cherished before this sort of like bloom of hip hop and R&B culture that came from the 90s and the 80s and really like blossomed in the late 90s and the 2000s and just ran, you know, people ran with it. How can we have that sort of opinion about it? Because, I mean, it came from us. You know, it came from our artists.
Nah, bro, it didn't really come for us because, you know why? We're living in a digital age now. So the age of social media is greatly to blame for that. Like me, I grew up on the cusp of like not having no internet to having dial-up internet to now look where we are technologically now. Right. So we have influence coming from all over the place, bro. And we have so many different opinions now, and so many different opinions, and you know what's deemed acceptable and what's not, that it's hard to even call it nowadays, bro.
So when you think about that argument, I guess you talk about the digital age and like social media and people like sharing things and people just having access to someone's music. And I understand that. I see how things can go viral. Things that are popular or meant just for like a culture or a subculture can be adopted by, you know, like the mother culture, not the mother culture, but like the overbearing, you know, people who consume things. But thinking back to sort of what I was saying, I mean, wouldn't you blame like music videos for the same sort of thing? Like if a music video was made by a hip hop artist in the 90s and it was put on MTV or TRL or something like that, and it just, became immensely popular, it still was broadcasted to a different audience.
Right.
And when you think of artists like Lauryn Hill or D'Angelo or, just to name those few who we all know became sort of recluses because of what was happening with their music and their artistry after they had this massive amount of success.
Now you see how those artists that you named, those are genuinely talented artists. Those are genuinely talented artists, bro. You cannot say that even 80% of the artists out now, are they really talented? No. Some of them are attractive, some of them have an appeal, some of them have a gimmick, some of them are funny, some of them just have a big social media presence. And somebody throws a stamp, okay, you're gonna be a singer now, you're gonna be a rapper now, because you have this following, and they just shove them out into the world, bro. And that's just really what it is. Like, I've had to come to a realization that the music business is literally 90% business, 10% music.
Right.
And if these labels see that they could turn a profit by putting these particular artists out, they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you could songwrite well. It doesn't even matter if you could sing well. Do you have a following? Are you marketable? Can we put a gimmick behind you? Boom.
I think that it hurts, even though it's true, because I moved to New York to sing and to perform, and I had like a mixtape, and I had all these little things going on, and then when I got here, I just could not push myself hard enough to keep up with like the rat race and trying to find like that burst of exposure that I needed.
I bet you if you had a viral video,
it'd be completely different.
Mike, you be on right now.
Yeah.
And
I am on. What are you talking about? I'm on the Elsewise show.
No, I mean, as a...
We popping?
No, you guys are popping. If you guys wasn't popping, I wouldn't even be here. You'd be on as a singer, and that's what I'm saying, because I'm pretty sure that was your first love.
It was my first love.
And you do this very well. But I'm just saying, I'm pretty sure that was your first love, man. And talents like you get overlooked because somebody may have 500,000 followers.
Yeah.
But
or
that's
somebody
with
might,
everything.
I know.
Yeah, and that's literally with everything.
It's hard.
And I hate it. And then what I hate even more is that these people who get on, through their following, it's okay. But use that platform to speak about other things. They don't use their platform correctly, and maybe that's just me thinking beyond ourselves. Like, use the platform to speak on issues, bring awareness to something, stand for something.
They never do that.
They never do that.
None of them. Most of them.
And that's literally my issue. I don't care how people get on. I'm not going to knock you. You get what I'm saying? But you got to understand that you got to stand for something just aside from yourself.
And that's all about, sorry, go ahead.
With all of that, but what inspires you to keep going then? Because all of those things that you've being inspired with the 80s and the 90s, and you see how hip hop and just the music industry is going now, what keeps you inspired for you to keep going and putting out music and putting out your fashions and putting out everything?
Because I've never got deterred as the times change. Like, I've never lost the love for me doing what I do, because ultimately it's not even about me. At some point, I want to open up a mentoring program. I want to have the funds to be able to provide for other artists, not even just musicians, to give them those resources that they may not be able to afford themselves. The goal really isn't to live forever, but to create something that does, and if I can't, through my art, do something that it changes the world, maybe I can inspire somebody who does.
Absolutely.
I think it's a common thread in a lot of like really great hip hop artists and great writers and people in our community is that, trying to create something to give back, to inspire other people to, be able to have something to even just see and say, you know what, this guy did it. Like, he never.
And that's what I want to do, man. I want to leave my footprint. So that's why I've never stopped. That's why I continue to put out designs. That's why I continue to make music. That's why I continue to come on platforms like this, because I want to get that message out. And I thank you guys again for being able to provide me with this platform to get that message out. And that's what Alpha is all about, self-empowerment. And I want to empower others as well.
Well, since you want to empower so many people, where can we follow you on social media where we can keep up with you, make sure that we support you and anything that you have going on?
Absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram at Panama Da Prince. That's PANAMADA PRINCE, and go stream Alpha on all streaming platforms. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
No, thank you. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Make sure you follow him on social media, and we'll be right back.
Today we are tackling a seriously controversial topic on the Science Mind. I want to bring up the subject of climate change. Dun dun dun! I know this subject has seen its fair share of media coverage in the last 5 or so years, but let's look at it through a new light. I want to go over briefly what climate change is and isn't, how or if you can do anything to help, and what the future really holds for us. Climate change is the gradual shifting of Earth's climate patterns over stints of time due to either natural or unnatural causes. Earth has been through many climate changes before. The Ice Age, that was a climate change. The flooding of the Earth in biblical times, that'd be a climate change event. Nuclear fallout from countries destroying each other, that too is climate change, but man-made. Many things can affect our weather, but the ones that we are also vexed about are man-made causes. These causes can be diminished or made less powerful by us individually taking ownership to steer our collective impact in a better direction. When you think about ownership of climate change, you should also think about what you can do on a day-to-day basis to diminish your carbon footprint. Some examples would be if you live in a metropolitan area, consider using public transportation or ride sharing instead of driving. Also consider your usage of utilities. Turn off lights when not in use, unplug devices that don't need to stay plugged in all the time, conserve water when you can, and use all reusable products in your home. No single-use plastics or containers or utensils. Another method to maximize your ownership is to be careful with your spending. Big purchases such as cars, homes, or property can just add to the massive steaming heap of bad choices for the environment. Consider signing up for green energy with your power company when you purchase a home. Purchase a home or property that utilizes natural sunlight, is properly insulated, or uses solar energy to offset your power usage. For automobiles, go ahead and take advantage of that tax credit while we still have it and get a battery-powered or hybrid car. Electric cars will soon become ubiquitous in the United States, and there are several discrete options from BMW to Kia that will help you cut out your footprint while still looking like a sexy oil consumer. Overall, personal ownership of climate change for most people will come down to simple mindfulness and just making smarter day-to-day choices. Now, if you simply cannot get with the program, let's talk briefly about what is going to happen if we don't turn this ship around. I'll skip the usual doom and gloom, but temperatures will continue to rise, sea levels will rise, animal species will go extinct, big cities near fresh waterways will see massive increases in population as people try to stay close to water sources, and all of our systems dependent on agriculture and weather will be damaged. To stave all of this off, just consider any action you can do consistently so that we can all enjoy the earth a little longer, just the way it is. We've had a great time today with Maura Caroll and Panama Da Prince. Thank you guys so much for coming through. And thanks, audience, as well, for tuning in.
And make sure you stay updated with our guests, our host, and the show. Make sure to follow The L Spot Show at The L Spot Online and visit thelspot.com.
On our website, you can find past episodes and a place to donate so we can keep this going. Any little contribution helps, big or small.
And be sure to keep tuning in The L Spot Show so you too can network and be recognized.
Yay!
You gon' love this.
I can't believe where I'm at now. I dreamt about this for a while. I knew I'd be a superstar. Didn't think I was gonna make it far. Been through trials and tribulations. Almost lost faith, thought I wouldn't make it. But my God is the greatest. And now's my time to shine and be fearless. Now is my time to shine and be fearless. Now is my time to shine and be fearless. And be fearless. and be fearless, and be fearless. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work.
It's time to make a movie, y'all. Karen J. I'm a star, I shine way brighter. Everything lit, yo, they calling me a lighter. Came out swinging cause I'm born to be a fighter. Gifted with the words, so I'm known to be a writer. I done came a long way. Trip to the top and I came here to stay. Ain't worried about y'all cause today I'm feeling fearless. If you ain't showing love, I can care less. I can move through a crowd with a smile on. Got a bank full of money I can pile on. So it's lights, cameras, flash cause I'm here. Net worth bringing in a new year. Hands up, everybody celebrate. Only making big moves like a heavyweight. Flawless, how we rockin' the jewels. Front page of the time if you talking the news, you heard?
Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. Light, camera, action. Now watch me work. To shine and be fearless. Now it's my time to shine and be fearless. Now it's my time to shine and be fearless. And be fearless. And be fearless. And be fearless. Now watch me work. Now watch me work.